What the Tech is brought to you by Molecule. For $75 off your first order, visit molecule.com and enter the promo code Andrew. That's MOLEKULE.com and the promo code Andrew. Simple Contacts, an easy and convenient way to renew your contact lens prescription or reorder your contacts from anywhere within minutes. Get $30 off your contact lenses by visiting simplecontacts.com/Andrew and entering the promo code Andrew.
What's the tech?
Everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Major Zarian. Of course, I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
I think I'm losing my voice.
Losing my hair.
We're both losing something. I'm losing my mind. You're losing your hair. I'm losing my voice. It's a combination of terrible things happening here.
Yeah,
boy, I have a lot of questions for you on this episode.
Okay.
A lot of questions.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, what is your favorite wine? No. Yeah, what is your favorite wine, Paul?
My favorite wine. My favorite type of wine is like a Brunello, Montalcino, Montepulciano.
Oh, so fancy.
Those kinds of wines. It's a
Not
kind of Chianti-based wine.
Not the Cavite Pinot Grigio you buy for $6.99 in the double barrel.
The jug wine that you get at the local convenience store.
Not the jug wine. No, I actually have a lot of questions.
I like.
Who doesn't?
like
Listen, sometimes you want the cheap stuff. I opt into it every now and then.
Rosé last night.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Have you had rosé cider?
No.
It's delicious. I do have a lot of questions for you.
The better
on the on the Microsoft side, on the tech. I get these questions every now and then that are sent to me, and I hang on to them for an episode like this.
Something like, "What the hell is your problem, Andrew?"
Most of the time, it's me being called an idiot, but this time it's not. I do want to talk about that and a couple other things, obviously, but I want to touch on this. You did a more of a detailed review of the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And you posted it today on the website.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to you about this, and I wanted to get your opinion, because we've spoken about this, but you really went and did a detailed review. This is that obviously.
Yeah, it's just to be clear though, it's like part 1 of 3.
Yeah, it's part 1 of 3. But I want to touch on this because you are pretty complimentary of this, the overall design of this phone.
Yep.
It's a beautiful phone. Beautiful. I absolutely love it too.
Beautiful.
So give me before we dive into other things, I wanted to go into this. Give me your overall for the part 1 of this series that you're writing on Thurrott.com. Give me your overall.
Yeah, which is mostly like form factor, hardware type stuff. I think from a design perspective that this is the best smartphone in the market, period. I don't think there's anything that comes close. With the possible exception, I guess, of the iPhone 10, which is also a very elegant phone. But the iPhone 10 in its current form is the iPhone 10, in other words, is kind of a smallish device. I think maybe once Apple rounds out the family with more sizes and hopefully, either gets rid of or more likely reduces the size of the notch, maybe that situation will improve. But as of today, I would say that there's something really special about this device, and it's something that's been copied everywhere. The OnePlus 5, various LGs, the OnePlus 5T, the Mate 10 Pro that I did, the Huawei phone I just reviewed. These things all share that kind of tall, thin display, right? In this case, it's 6.2 inches. I think it's 18.5 by 9 or 18 by 9, somewhere in that aspect ratio range. It is what defines a modern smartphone. Where this phone exceeds all others, including the iPhone, is the way that the glass just really elegantly curves over to the sides, and there's a real it's like an infinity pool effect where the edge of the display is kind of unclear, like where it molds into the actual aluminum parts of the body. It's not very obvious where that happens. It's a very elegant look.
Yeah, so I have
all glass.
I have a case on mine that I just took off, but it's an extremely elegant look. You know, the thing falls. I like the feel of it. It's very slippery, though. Have you noticed that on yours?
It's the awfulness of it. Is it's so beautiful, you want to have it out so you can kind of just look at it like a precious thing. You have to protect it. The entire outside of it, except for some aluminum bits on the edges, are glass. It is slippery, like you said. It attracts smudges like easily, and you will drop it and you will break it, and it's
Absolutely.
really expensive to repair this thing. So you have to put it in a case, and that kind of diminishes it. The interesting thing about that is, the Google Pixel 2 XL that I normally use is more durable. It's way more pedestrian looking, but you can use it without a case, and it's for me at least so far it's been okay. I would never use the Galaxy S9 Plus without a case. I just wouldn't trust it.
Yeah, no, I see. I made the mistake with the S7, where I thought it was a beautiful design, and I actually here somewhere. I actually have it out of the case. I thought it was such a beautiful design. I didn't have it in the case. I'm like, I'm pretty careful with this thing, but it's pretty slippery. Even the S7 was, and I dropped it and I cracked the screen, and because it's a curved display, that display was very expensive to fix. It was like $300.
Yeah.
And and then I put a ridiculous case on the thing, and it really took away from the absolute beauty of the overall design. But right now we're noticing, who knows if this is going to be the next Samsung, whatever they call it, S10 or whatever they call it, the X, who knows? But who knows if this is going to stay as the design, because if you look at it, the entire industry is now going to a notch. LG just announced their lineup with a notch. Huawei is putting out a notch. It's Apple once again.
I know. I know that people say they don't notice it. You get used to it. I used an iPhone 10 for quite a while. I never got used to it personally. I think I find it to be intrusive, and I think I think this is just a psychology thing where it's not really that you get used to it. It's that you're like, oh, this thing is so beautiful. I'm just going to live with this, and it's going to be like, it's okay. It's fine. It's not, and yeah, I'm sure it's okay. I think that this kind of design, like Samsung has done, and like we've seen today on most phones, is better. That a little bit of bezel, especially when you do that kind of thing where the phone is often, the display is black, the exterior around the screen is black, and it has a nice blending quality. There's some software tricks you can do with the notch to help with that, obviously. Apple isn't doing them yet, but they probably will. They'll do it on the Android side that may minimize that effect. And if you look at, I don't know if you saw that leaked design for the OnePlus 6, but they have a much more minimal bezel than the iPhone 10 does. I think that's one of the failings of that phone. Is the large bezel all around it. Yeah. But they also do a good job of minimizing the size of the notch. And I think with the software control, the software controls that are coming in Android, either via third parties or the platform itself, will help minimize.
So I guess this is the answer to a top bezel, right? Because you always need that top bezel. So I guess the way that they justify it is, if you're going up a little bit more, you're taking away from the bezel, so it's less bezel, but now you have this weird thing in the middle. Yeah.
The idea is that you still get more screen overall, even with a notch. But it's not as simple as just coating the entire surface of the device with a screen. There's other stuff going on there, right? And so we know that there's notches because there are sensors and cameras and things, and we need them for whatever purposes, and that's true. But it's more than that, right? We have a need for microphones and speakers. These modern smartphones all have stereo speakers, and one of the things that's kind of a weird issue with almost all smartphones today, I would say, you can test it on any phone, is put it in landscape mode, watch a movie or whatever, listen to music, it doesn't matter, and pay attention to the stereo separation. And what you'll discover in most cases, I think, is that on the right side of the phone, or what is normally the bottom of it, the sound comes out a little louder there, right? And that's traditionally where the one speaker in a mono speaker system has been. It's always in the bottom for whatever reason. And so they've been doing these stereo speakers, but it's off a little bit. And so if you stretch the screen out now, and we're not going to do, we're going to have to push sound out somewhere else, either through the top and bottom of the phone, or maybe through the screen itself somehow. I just think you're compromising too much of the experience for some vague aesthetic thing. Like, oh, look, it's all screen, it's not really all screen, but it's mostly all screen. And I I just think this approach is fine. It's not just fine. I think this approach is better. I like the way this works.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the direction is going to be with this. I was totally against the notch, but like you said, you kind of trick yourself into being okay with it. We have a iPhone 10 that we use for like shoots and stuff at my job, and at first I looked at it, I'm like, this is silly, and then I kind of got used to it, and I adjusted to having this notch in the middle. After about a week or so of using it, that's my personal thing. I adjusted to it, but I'm curious if it's going to be an adjustment when it's a much larger display. They're talking about going larger with the next generation iPhone. Does that mean that the notch gets bigger, or does that mean that the notch is actually smaller compared to the screen size,
Yeah. Apple will always do a good job on the design. As weird as the notch is, and my complaints notwithstanding, I'm sure they will work to minimize it over time. I don't see any particular reason why the notch has to be bigger on a bigger phone. The sensors and everything are going to take up the same amount of space. It's okay.
Yeah.
I hope what we don't see is notches on iPads, notches on Macs, whatever.
You know what? 100. I guarantee you. You know what? I'm willing to take that bet. They're gonna put the notch on the iPad, and they're gonna put the notch on the Mac. And maybe they'll do?
Sure.
The notch, like the top portion of it, where the notch, like it's the notch and then it goes up. That up portion will be where you have, on the Mac, like where you have like the Apple button, the Chrome, like for Chrome, if you have it open, file, edit, all that stuff. That little top bar will go on the sides, and the middle will be for the camera.
Into the software. Yep. Well, and that's Android's approach, or Google's approach with the next version of Android, right? They're going to integrate that, and you can see it in the current beta. That even I'm looking now at the current version of Android 8.1. There are icons on the left, and there are icons on the right, and in the middle, there's nothing. And so if you're going to intrude into that space where there's nothing on the home screen, and you're going to move the edge of the screen to the edge of the device, you could make the argument you're buying yourself some screen real estate there on the home screen and on apps that are normal apps. Obviously, when you're watching movies, when you're playing games, whatever, that thing's going to be in the way. That's just the way it is. But you know what? I guess you could make the argument, it's about optimizing for the everyday, not for the occasional. I mean, if you're a hardcore gamer on an iPhone or an Android phone, whatever it is, which I have a hard time imagining, maybe that notch will be a problem for you. But for most people, if it's integrated properly into the software using normal productivity applications, it's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I'm curious where we head with this. This is an interesting. I'm curious on what the perception. Again, we spoke about perception last week. When it came to technology, and it was a nice discussion about how Apple has created this amazing perception of what their products are, and for the most part, it is that. It is higher end products. They're beautiful products. Samsung has the same exact thing with the S, with the S line. These Galaxies. The perception is that this is a premium. This is the best Android phone on the market. That's the perception. Is it true? I'm sure to many levels, it is the best Android phone on the market. But aesthetically, it's beautiful. Performance-wise, it's great. But you could still make the argument that maybe the Huawei P20 or one of those, the P20 Pro is a better phone. But the reality is, you're getting these commercials. You're getting the Samsung commercial, and that's what you're seeing. Same thing with Apple. By the way, talking about that Huawei P20 Pro, GSM Arena did a blind shootout between the Lumia 1020 and that phone.
Okay.
It's interesting to see the results.
Because the Lumia 1020 is somehow relevant today for some reason.
Yeah, I think they did it because, it was such a phenomenal camera phone on there, and the P20 supposed to have
5 years ago it was, but
I have to tell you,
I'm sorry.
I preferred some of these images. I preferred the Lumia over the P20.
Okay, but first of all, that camera is outperformed by cameras in several far more recent smartphones, Android and iPhone. And I don't know if you saw my photos of that steel stack thing out in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania that I took over the weekend, but the camera in the Google Pixel 2 XL is superior, and it doesn't even come close. The Lumia is. It was good. It was an excellent camera for the day, but even on day one, that thing was so slow it was almost usable. And I challenge you to take an action shot of anything. If you thought your little kid was going to jump up and kick around a ball and you're going to get a photo of it, absolutely impossible with that.
You better be a mind reader to know when they're doing it.
Even then, it wouldn't matter as long as he was moving. It was just going to be blurry. You know,
Yeah.
you had to really work to get the perfect shot on that thing.
Yeah. I want to continue this discussion with you. And we never did a prediction show this year. And I wanted to get your opinion on the tablet market. I want you to think about this.
Yeah.
And I want you to, you know, while I'm doing this read, I want you to I always like your insight when it comes to where
Well,
a
you have
market
a low
is
bar,
going.
my friend.
I absolutely do. I love talking about this stuff. So I wanted to think about the tablet market, and we touched on it, how, you know, sales are dying for the tablet market. And Apple just recently lowered the price to kind of bring the market back up, and they've been very successful with that $329 price point. And the $299 or $289 right now for the kids version,
for education,
EDU version, education version.
Yep.
So I want to touch on the tablet stuff for a little bit, but before we do, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, and that's Molecule. Listen, I got 2 kids. All right, Paul just said, you know, we were talking about a camera and try snapping a picture of your kids. I have 2 kids, and I got a very old house, and we have one room. I got to place the order for this week. I'm ordering this. What Molecule is, it introduces a breakthrough science that's finally able to destroy air pollutants at a molecular level. Molecule replaces the 50-year-old antiquated technology of the HEPA filter, which almost, you know, air conditioners have, HVAC ducts have. If you have any kind of air purification system, there's a very good chance that you're using this technology. But it was developed in the 1940s, and there's been no major innovation since then. But Molecule uses a PECO, P-E-C-O technology that goes beyond the HEPA filter. It captures and eliminates allergens, molds, bacteria, viruses, and airborne chemicals, and it also includes pollutants of 10,000 times smaller than what a HEPA filter could catch. So think about that. I mean, this thing is able to really do a great job at cleaning up the air. My living room right here, I don't know what it is. And that's going to be the best test for me. Whatever it is, it really affects my eyes and my nose, and I get totally congested. I got a 118-year-old house here. So I'm going to put this thing in my living room, and I can't wait to see what it actually does. This is great. And guys, I highly, highly recommend it. And they have a great offer for you guys. If you go to molekulE.com, that's molekulE.com, molecule.com, and you enter the promo code Andrew, you get $75 off your first order. I really recommend you guys try this out, and I'm a big fan of them. I was reading about the science that they're using and what they're doing. I absolutely love them. That's Molecule, molekulE.com. Use the promo code Andrew at checkout, and you get $75 off their first order. These guys are great. I want to thank them for supporting the show. Actually, Paul, that thing, I need to place this order because I don't know. Are your allergies terrible? Do you have bad allergies?
I usually do. Yeah, I haven't experienced anything this year yet, but
I'm already dying. It's already started with me. My eyes, my nose. I'm in terrible condition. So perfect timing for this live read. So last week we kind of touched on the tablet market, and you know, somebody wrote to me, and I thought it was interesting. He said, "You know what the problem with the tablet market is? By the way, the beeping that you guys hear is the Verizon backup battery that has fallen
it's not
behind."
That you're in a hospital room.
It is it's not a UPS. It is the Verizon
like
BIOS backup
EKG
battery that has fallen behind the wall. I cannot access. It's now dying. That thing, it fell in the wall. Still, I have to reach in there and grab it. It's a whole mess here. So please ignore that beeping. It's actually signals. I'm sending signals. It's like Morse code. I'm screaming for help. So I got this email, and I thought it was interesting. And he said, "You know what the problem with the tablet market is? It was fun. It was innovative. It was different when Apple did it in 2011, 2010, when the iPad 2s came out and really changed everything. But there has been a maturity issue with the tablet market, where beyond holding it in your hand, reading the news, playing a couple games, what do you do beyond that? How much of a productivity device has this become?" And I'm just taking quick glances at the notes, and he was explaining how, no matter how many times you take an iPad Pro and you put a keyboard on it, it's still going to have issues being that productivity tool that you could use like a PC. And I 100% agree with him. And this email came at the perfect time. Last week, I had my computer at repair, my MacBook, and I had my HP But I really wanted to, after when I saw that email, I said, you know what, let me try working on this thing. So I went to the auto show with my father. When I came back, I was actually working for 2 days with an iPad Pro with a keyboard. I have to tell you, it took me twice as long to do anything. And not because I'm not used to working on it, just because it is not as productive as using a computer.
It's not optimized for that kind of thing.
It's not. And his argument was the only way a tablet on that conceptual level, right? I'm not talking about a Surface, which is a computer. It's more a computer than a tablet. It will always have a problem, becoming that one device for you, because it takes you twice as long to do anything. And the answer to this problem is you turn it into a PC. You connect the mouse, and you connect the keyboard, and now you have a half-assed operating system where you can't really do everything you want to do. So, I mean, what is the place for the tablet market? I mean, really, where does it go beyond? I mean, obviously, it was a great novelty. It was an innovative device for the time over the last almost 10 years now that we've seen this happen, but, well, less than 10 years, let's say 8, 7 years. But where does it continue to mature and head into?
Right. I mean, boy, right? we might not have enough time for this one. So let's just kind of step through a couple of things here. When Steve Jobs introduced the iPad in 2010, he spoke of the unclear need for, is there room between a phone and a PC? Is there, without explaining why there would need to be room for such a thing. But then he gave the rationale for this thing to exist. It would have to do some set of core tasks better than a phone and better than a computer. And I think it's fair to say with the iPad in particular, I'm not really sure about Android tablets. It doesn't seem like any are particularly successful. I haven't used one in a long time now myself. And of course, the Android world is kind of moving to Chrome OS plus Android, which may solve this problem. But as far as an iPad goes, which is the one I think we're all most familiar with, and I've owned at least one version of every iPad ever made. I think I've owned multiple versions. In fact, I'm positive I have of certain models. But I recently I bought an iPad Pro with a keyboard cover, smart keyboard, and a pencil last year. I used that I tried to do what you did many times, and of course, when iOS 11 came out with the new productivity enhancements, I tried again, and like you said, and you're exactly right, I found it to be very awkward and non-optimal. And recently, last couple of trips, I've actually gone back. I'm sorry. Let me step back one thing. I found myself using it mostly for consumption purposes, reading, watching movies on trips. So every day I would use it to read the newspaper, right, the New York Times. But for the past few months and for the past couple of trips I've been on, I've switched back to the iPad Mini because it's smaller, it's lighter. In this case, it has more storage, and so for things like trips, I can put more movies on it and more TV shows or whatever. And I find that to be useful. The performance is terrible compared to the iPad Pro. And then one thing I miss vaguely, I guess, is some of the advanced screen technologies in the iPad Pro, which I think are kind of cool. The True Tone stuff, where it adjusts the light, the color of the light to the quality of light in the room, and so forth. I think that stuff is kind of nice. But so where does this thing fit in? And I mentioned this phrase. I just coined this phrase. I'm so proud of myself. I keep saying it over and over again for some reason. But the optimize for the everyday instead of for the occasional, right? And so the iPad speaks to a reality where the everyday is you're not typing, you're not writing things like I do, you're not working in big Excel spreadsheets, you're not editing video, at least not anything beyond a small personal video. You're not doing these complex tasks that might be better on a keyboard, mouse, PC or Mac or whatever. It does do some tasks better than these other devices, email and web browsing and reading and things like that. It's a better device for watching movies for sure than a PC is. Is it a better, or is it an acceptably good thing that you could bring up Microsoft Word on that device and use that keyboard to type a short document or a long document or write a book or whatever it is you're doing? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. But some people make that work. Obviously, there's always exceptions, and I think it depends on what your life mix is, what you need the most. So the iPad and the tablet in particular have been hamstrung by the fact that they don't do those productivity tasks better than PCs. And then phones have gotten bigger and better to the point where for a lot of people, it's more convenient just to have that one device. My wife used to use a Kindle ebook reader to read books and to read the paper. Now, when she gets up in the morning, she reads the paper on her phone, because she has a Galaxy S8 Plus, which has a pretty big screen. And I don't like that. I find that to be a little too small. I don't mind, if I'm out in the world and I have the phone and I have Pocket on there, I have the New York Times on there, I have various ways to read, I have the Kindle app and so forth. For occasional usage, fine. But I prefer, there's something to me about the right sizeness of the iPad mini. And my experience with the iPad Pro has been poor enough that I've considered just getting rid of it and getting the 9.7-inch version, right? If I were going to do it again today, I would have gotten that one instead, because I know now that the productivity picture on there is pointless for me. And I think it is for most. So what's the role? Its role is diminished. There was a time where we thought that the iPad was going to, or the tablet market was going to surpass the market for the PC. Remember, it grew really, really fast for several years. And then it stopped growing, and then it started falling, and I think we're seeing across all of these device types, PCs, which have fallen, tablets, which have fallen overall, although the iPad rebounded last year, by the way, because of that cheaper iPad you mentioned. And then the smartphone too, which is leveled off and is probably going to drop. We've reached kind of a saturation with these device types, and what we see today as the mix, plus or minus some percentage, may be the mix that we see going forward.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be a mixed device, and maybe the Surface concept is the way to go, where you have this mixed device, this mixed environment where you could detach and connect and use it that way. But I agree with you on the sense that, smartphones are getting much bigger, and it's not as necessary to have, I'm actually doing an update, this or this. These are all for different things, by the way. These are not mine. These are for work. But why would I walk around with this if my phone is pretty, close enough to the size? I don't know. I don't know where the future lies for this. 5 years from now, Paul, what do you see?
Well, it's hard to say exactly, but I think what's going to happen is that overall usage of the PC in particular is going to keep going down. And the question is where that shifts to. There are people who, in the course of a day, course of a week or a month or whatever time period, can do most of what they need to do for work electronically over a phone, sending email, browsing, reading things, even doing light edits on documents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People are holding on to PCs for longer than they used to, a lot longer. And I think what we're going to see is that's going to be it. They're not going to buy another PC.
What's the current age for PC replacement? What's the current time frame for replacement?
I'm not sure exactly what Gartner and IDC kind of reference this vaguely every time they do a market share report, but it used to be on a roughly 3 to 4 year basis, and it's at least double that now.
Yeah.
And it's just,
but this includes, this is not just consumer usage, right? This is overall,
yeah,
over enterprise and everything in one. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because
and enterprise, business will be the last bastion for the PC for the most part, aside from, some vertical markets for, gaming. Obviously, there are always going to be prosumers, people who work from home, a lot of people who do that are going to need a PC at home, that kind of thing. Professional writers will want to stick with a PC. And when I say PC, I mean PC or Mac, right? Like a traditional computer. But the question is, these hybrid devices, like, mentioned Surface Pro, and there are devices like the Pixelbook, which is a Chromebook that runs Android apps that can flip around and be a tablet. HP just announced a Chrome-based tablet that is a 2-in-1 PC with a keyboard cover. We're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff. And so these hybrid devices will help people make the transition. The question is, again, we're optimizing for what? An iPad Pro is optimized for consumption, despite its name, and it's okay for occasional traditional productivity work. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably good for new productivity work, which is more like email, reading, light editing. But as far as traditional things, spreadsheets, writing in word processors, that kind of stuff, old school, um, it's probably less optimal for that. But for a lot of people, that's the right mix, right? It just depends on what you need. For people like me who are, kind of traditional PC users, we tend to be older, for one thing, and we tend to stick to old school tools.
Yeah.
A PC type device is going to make more sense for the foreseeable future. And that's PCs and Macs, of course, but it's also going to be Chromebooks. And there's an interesting hybrid thing that can occur there, because on the PC side, the weakest part of a Surface Pro or a Surface Pro type device is the tablet part, not because it doesn't work, but because the ecosystem there is so minimal and terrible.
Yeah.
One of the advantages of an iPad or Android is that ecosystem is vast. And so if you were to use a Chromebook and you could use, Google Docs or whatever those kind of tools are, which are probably great for everybody, for most people, for those times you want to play a game, read, watch a movie, do whatever, the ecosystem of possibilities there is great. And so the tablet experience is probably going to be better.
So here's an interesting thing, right? Like we're hearing speculation is that the next version of Mac OS will incorporate iOS features like the App Store. And that is the prime for many people. That is the reason why you purchase an iPad. It's because their ecosystem is filled with unbelievable tools and resources and games and socializing apps, everything.
Yeah.
It has
everything's
everything.
a compromise.
So
everything's a compromise.
Once you add this, and I'm sure it's not going to be the full extent of the library, right? Once you add this to the Mac side, it might deter people from purchasing an iPad if they wanted those applications. That's a possibility. What happens when they add a touch feature?
No, but that's okay. I mean, I think back, a couple of years ago, you could make the argument that Apple wasn't adding touch to a Mac for that reason. They didn't want to cannibalize an iPad for some reason. I don't think Apple cares what device you buy as long as you buy the devices, right? I mean, Apple's biggest growth new business is the services thing, and services includes the apps and all of that ecosystem stuff. And if they can make iPad apps run on a Mac, then the Mac can become, I'm not saying they're going to add touch. I think they should, but they seem to indicate they're not. The Mac could become a Surface Pro type computer. But even if it doesn't, even if they just stick to traditional clamshells, they're still going to have the iPad app compatibility, and that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it is huge. One thing that is interesting to me is, we talk about touch, and on the Windows side, it's amazing how quick they got it right with the touch aspect to Windows and to the PC market, where people really got their act together and said, okay, we can't put out these crappy, let's go back to Windows 7 touch devices. It was like the Wild West. Some devices were pretty good and other ones were absolutely terrible. It was for some devices that were unusable, and once Microsoft kind of set the tone with their Surface devices, people caught up. Apple really doesn't have that, but maybe they just don't want to play catch up to the PC market with incorporating touch into their operating system, because it would have to be a major overhaul on the Mac side. I use a Mac on a regular basis, and I could tell you it's starting to feel a little dated with the way that they handle, PC, the operating, a PC OS in 2018. There's been no fundamental improvements or to the UI in a number of years, other than, aesthetically, they got rid of the 3D stuff. They went more to, what do they call it? The flat look. What was the term they used? Do you remember?
I don't know that there was a term.
Yeah, there was something that they said. But they changed the overall design. But
what's the difference? I mean, the beauty of the PC is that you have choice, right? So there's all these different things. I sort of thought about this a little bit on my trip to Colorado. I had the HP NVX2, which is that kind of touch tablet Qualcomm thing. And I also brought the Surface. No, I didn't. I brought the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, which is kind of more of a traditional laptop. They both support touch, and I don't think the ThinkPad supports pen, but I don't really use that too much anyway. I don't use touch that much in a laptop. I mean, I don't object to it there. you'll find yourself using it if it's there from time to time in ways that I think would surprise people, but it doesn't take it over. It doesn't take over. It's not like I stopped using the mouse or whatever. So,
well, here's a good question for you. I mean, you got 2 kids. Obviously they're older than my kids because you're way older than me.
Yep,
that's my jab.
Yes, to both of those things.
But
yep.
I have to tell you, my daughter at 2 years old, if she sees my HP out, she goes to touch it. Like if we're in bed, and I rarely do screen time with her. Like I'm big on very, very little screen time, but if she had a good week or a good day, maybe she'll get like 15 minutes of like a YouTube video with like if I'm in bed, and she will automatically go to touch and scroll and swipe on that screen. When she sees my wife with her MacBook, if she sees my wife with the MacBook, she says no, and she slams the lid and doesn't want that one. She wants the one with the touchscreen. She's already pre-programmed to constantly want to touch the screen.
I get it, but look, the Mac is the PC. It's a legacy thing, The question is whether you make the investment at this point in its life cycle to add features that frankly aren't going to benefit a lot of people. So what would be what's the point? Why are we going to go back and Microsoft has to do this. This is all they have.
Yeah.
Apple has this huge devices ecosystem. Who cares? The justification for adding touch to the Mac is as simple as saying, look, you're developing iOS apps on this thing. Having touch would make that easier. And they could skate in under their nobody wants to sit there with their hand out pointing at the screen problem by saying, we're doing this for developers. They might be surprised to discover that when they do that for developers, if they ever do, that people may rally around it as something that they actually really like. And by the way, it would help improve the situation of running iPad apps on those devices too. But Apple, I don't agree with a lot of what they do. I certainly don't agree with a lot of the way they do things. But
you shouldn't. I mean, that's the great thing about this, right? You're honest and listen. I use the Mac on a regular basis, and I could say it.
Okay, but it's not that I'm honest. It's that I disagree. Whatever. I could just be wrong. I mean, they are the richest company in the world, right? I think we've established that 70% of their revenues come from the iPhone directly. 95% of their revenues, probably, when you add in all the services and the stuff that kind of builds on the iPhone halo, comes at least indirectly from the iPhone. I mean, that's where their bread is buttered, I think is the term I'm looking for. Why bother?
Yeah. So last week, and I'm just going through emails now. I like this. I like going through the emails. You guys are doing the work for me.
Cool. Last week, emails on an iPad, or do you do it on a computer?
I'm doing it on a gigantic.
Hold on. Your computer is back.
It is back.
So what happened? You never. What's?
Oh, the display died. The actual display died.
So last week you were using the HP.
I was using the HP, which I have right here next to me.
I'm not doubting your allegiance to the HP. I'm just saying.
I'm not turning on HP.
I didn't accuse you of that. But so what happened? I mean, how long was it gone?
1 day. Less than a day. From the point of me dropping it off to picking it up, it was less than 24 hours.
Listen, you may receive an email or a phone call asking you how your customer service.
10 out of 10.
Actually, they're going to fill out the form for you. All they ask is that you just click send.
Just click send, yeah.
Don't even look at it.
So I picked it up, and the girl that brought it to me, the young lady that brought it to me, she goes, she's like, "You've been here a couple times, huh?" I go, "Yeah." She goes,
"More than a couple."
He goes, "How many computers have we given you?" I go, "You've given me 3 brand new computers, and you've repaired this. You've done 3 repairs." She goes, "So 6 times. We've repaired this thing 6 times." I go, "Yep." She goes, "Oof." Her exact words to me were, "Oof." So on Tuesday, no, we did the show Thursday. So I went and I picked it up on Friday. So they got the part on. I dropped it off Wednesday. It was fixed right at the end of our show, and I went Friday to go pick it up.
I got you.
So
I mean, that's a pretty good. That's a good turnaround time.
Unbelievable turnaround, actually.
Computer, but that's good. That's good.
Yeah, which I give them.
I've had internet outages last longer than that.
Yeah, it was great. So it was the display. The display failed, died. Not the actual display card, but the display. So I went in there and I said something on Thursday that a couple of people messaged me and said it's not true. And I said, I don't think these 15-inch MacBook Pro touches are selling as well as you would think. So by the way, there's no sale numbers or anything. And I got a couple of messages from people saying, no, Andrew, it was one of the best-selling Macs, best-selling releases that they've ever had. The 2016 new MacBook Pro outsold.
What are they basing that on?
Well, there is actually a stat there that it's legitimate numbers, and I'll pull it up. Which I looked it up. It outsold the Dell XPS 13 and whatever in 5 days of sales. They did like 3 months or a quarter's worth of their sales, which 100% is possible. But here's where it gets skewed. Here's where it gets skewed. The total number of sales for new MacBooks are MacBook Pro 13 non-touch, MacBook Pro 13 touch, MacBook Pro 15. I don't even know if they have a non-touch. They probably do. Non-touch Mac. They don't. Okay, they don't have it. Okay, so it's a combination of 3 different laptops.
Right.
That lineup. So when I went around and I was looking at the devices that are out there, especially in the Apple Store, I saw a ton of 13-inch non-touch and 13-inch touch. I did not see any 15-inch touch MacBook Pros in the actual Apple Store that people were using.
Oh, okay.
So I think those sales numbers that we're talking about, those sales numbers are for 13-inch touch and non-touch devices. I don't think, and they're very different devices. It's a very different laptop than the 13-inch version. The 13-inch version could not be plagued with these problems. It's quite possible. So, but we don't have exact sales numbers for a 15-inch 2016 to 2017 MacBook Pro. That I could not find those. And I still stand by the fact that I don't think many of these things are being sold to the extent that one would believe. That is my point with that.
I agree with that. I mean, I would love to see some data. I assume there are analytic firms that look at this kind of thing, but I would have a hard time believing that the MacBook Air wasn't the best-selling Mac model overall, period.
Yeah.
I would just have, I suppose the possible neck and neck exception could be that non-touch MacBook Pro, non-touch, whatever you call it, touch, whatever the thing's called,
whatever it is,
because it used to be, it can be reasonably close in price depending on different factors. I mean, lately the MacBook Air has been fire sold $200 off for whatever reason. But yeah, the 15-inch MacBook, my God, like these things cost $3,000, $2,200 to start or something. I mean, who's buying these computers? That's crazy.
Listen, I'm not. My employer issued me this, so I'm not going and buying it. But by the way, here's something interesting. Look what I got here. I got my 2015 also. I just formatted and fixed it. Cost me $500.
I do like the space gray color. I wish they could put that on the MacBook Air. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Little rose gold there.
Yeah. All right, Paul. Let's continue this. But before we do, I want to talk about, we were talking about allergies before, and I have to tell you, I got the worst allergies ever. And during the months of April and May, my contact lens replacements, I literally have to change these things every couple days because it just torture on me. And I just actually ordered another set of contact lenses from Simple Contacts. You can save $30 on a contact lens order at simplecontacts.com/Andrew when you use the promo code Andrew. And here's a great thing about them. So the way that it works with Simple Contacts is that you go to their website. Let's pull up their website right here. Why don't we do that while we're doing this? Simplecontacts.com. This is going to be fun. Let's look at this. So when you go to simplecontacts.com, you could either purchase contact lenses if you have your prescription, or if you do not have your prescription, they could do a test with you. at simple. Let me pull it up. Simplecontacts.com. This is cool. So you could get started. So it's very easy. You click on Get Started, and it says, do you need to renew your prescription? You could renew your prescription. By the way, this is not your yearly eye checkup. This is not that. This is not replacing going to your doctor and getting your yearly eye exam. This is exclusively for your prescription. So if you could either, if you have a prescription, great. You say you have it and it's done, and you go through with that, or you don't have a valid prescription and you need to take a renewal test. So you can take the renewal test. You fill out your email address, and their doctor. So you do it online. And you got to stand 9 feet behind, and you take the actual vision test, and it's cool. They pull up a credit card. You take out your credit card, and it like aligns the size of the screen for you to read. And you go 9 feet back, and you actually take an eye exam. And within just within 24 hours, a doctor reviews it and renews your prescription to get your contact lenses right away. Now, there's a small fee, obviously, with the eye exam. I believe it's $20. It's not that expensive. You could, when you go on their website, you can see also, and you can see who their doctors are also. I mean, this is an actual, vision test that you could do, which is awesome. Simplecontacts.com/Andrew. You save $30 on your contact lens order when you sign up, when you use the promo code Andrew at checkout. Paul, you wear contacts, right?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. I think it's amazing that you can now do this online at this point. The fact that you could do your eye exam online, you could check it, you go through the process like that. It's actually awesome. I did mine, my brother did his, and I just placed another order with them for my contact lenses because I've gone through like three different pairs in the last 2 weeks at this point because it's terrible. Simplecontacts.com/Andrew. You save $30 on your contact lens order when you use promo code Andrew. We spent some time on the Mac, but let's talk about the PC side. Where do the trend right now is convertibles, and HP's doing a remarkable job. But what else are you impressed by in the market? Obviously we talk about the HP that I have all the time. We talk about the Spectre lineup, which is a Class A premium product out there. I love their new ones. The new Spectre lineup, like the Spectre 13, it's absolutely beautiful. By the way, the 8th gen Intel processors are all quad core now. No more, dual core i7s. It's a quad core i7 in these things. Do you think right now they're leading that level of PC, that level of laptop, the premium market? Are they the leaders in this, or is it a tough battle?
I mean, they're one of the leaders. I would say that HP obviously is the #1 PC maker overall, right? So, but they have a wide range of products, and so they're selling to every part of the market, including really cheap devices all the way up to unbelievable gaming rigs and beautiful premium PCs of various stripes. So, HP's been firing on all cylinders for a few years now. There's a reason they're #1 again. They're doing a great job, but Lenovo's ThinkPad line in particular, and some of their that I don't know if they use really IdeaPad that much anymore, but some of their consumer-oriented products are fantastic. I criticize the Microsoft stuff a lot, but the truth is I really, really like most Surface devices quite a bit. And I wrote about this over the weekend, but one of the things that Microsoft really gets right is the 3x2 display thing. And this is something I've talked to PC makers about. I've been very interested to see their reaction to this. HP is, for all the stuff that they do right, I think this is one of the things they get wrong, which is they believe that 3x2 is great for tablets and 2-in-1s because when you turn the screen around, it doesn't look stupid tall, which is true. But the truth is a square screen is better for productivity. Always has been. And we only went to 16:9 because, back when PCs were the center of everything that we did with personal computing, we were moving to HDTV, and widescreen cinematic displays seemed to make sense for a few minutes. But we've been stuck there ever since, and PCs are not what that stuff is all about. And, when Brad and I were at CES, we talked to the design lead from ThinkPad, and he completely agreed. He said, the only reason we don't have square screens anymore is we can't get the parts. The whole industry has just moved in the 16:9 direction. They fought it. They went 16:10 when they had to get off 4x3, which is what they had before. and then they finally went to 16:9 because they don't have a choice. But you can do this right now with that HP you have. Open up the screen and look at the giant bezel at the bottom,
Yeah.
and realize that if they could fill that whole thing with a screen, and that would be a 3x2 or 4x3 screen. It would be perfect. It doesn't cost anything.
Is that, I mean, it looks like that's the old design of the, back to Apple, that was like the MacBook design with the bezels,
No. The new design is the bezel at the top is small. I'm talking about the bezel on the bottom.
Oh, the bezel on the bottom. Yeah.
But the bezel at the bottom is humongous. Fill that area with a screen. You're not making it any taller. I'm not asking for the device to be taller. I'm asking for the screen to be taller in that panel. It's true of many devices. The ThinkPad X1 Carbon is what touched this off. I was using it over the weekend, and it's funny when you're used to using a 3x2 screen, like a 16:9 screen seems like a weird, like Sergio Leone Western. Like it's like this weird stretched out, thin looking display.
Yeah, no, I'm actually looking at this right now. What's on the market? It is interesting how the displays are. Anything from Dell catching your interest?
No,
nothing. Right? It's interesting. Yeah.
Nope.
No. I mean that XPS is nice, but it's
old.
It's old.
That was really trend setting at the time, and they never fixed the problems. There are three, as far as I'm concerned, and I know there are outliers. I haven't tried it that are probably pretty good. I know Huawei makes a Mate something that is a lot like a MacBook, whatever. And of course, there are Apple devices too. And I am drawn somewhat to the hardware design, but that keyboard makes me insane. And it's not the typing quality; it's like the loudness of it.
Like mine.
Yeah, it makes me nuts. I don't like it. But for me right now, it's the Surface devices, which I would say Surface Laptop and Surface Book have perfect displays, keyboards, and trackpads. The experience there
the
is
Surface
perfect.
Laptop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of optimizing for the everyday versus the occasional, you can let's take that to a really logical extreme. One of the big complaints about the Surface, I raise it all the time, is that they're not using modern expansion. They only have one USB port. What is this? It's 2018, blah, 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 whatever. But the everyday of that thing is I look at the screen, I type on the keyboard, and I use that trackpad. And you know what? That experience is fantastic. And the fact that I can only plug in one thing at a time, or I have to use like a USB hub or whatever, is something that is so occasional. I don't even know what to say about the last time I ever needed that. So I'm not saying they're on to something. I still feel like this is a shortcoming, and that this device would be better in so many ways if they fix that. But the truth is, using my own logic, that I've used for other things, that device makes sense, and it's a fantastic laptop.
What do you think of the Chromebook, the new one that just came out, the Chromebook X2 by HP?
But I'm looking forward to seeing that. This is the Chromebook version of the NVX2 that they have in Qualcomm form. There's also an NVX2. It's a second-gen device. It's coming out in Intel form soon if it hasn't already. And so now there's a Chromebook version, right? So now we're going to have these three devices we can kind of compare. I think that's going to be a really viable solution for a lot of people. And where the NVX2 in Qualcomm form is $999, this thing is $500, or maybe it's $600, but it's a more reasonable price point for what I would call a premium Chrome device, right? A Chrome PC or whatever you want to call that thing. Chromebook.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. It's 8.2 millimeters thin, the tablet. Weighs 735 grams. It's the 7th gen M processor. I don't know what the improvements on the 7th gen of the M processor would be. HD Intel HD 615. I don't know. How much faster is the 7th gen?
It's hard to say. So the issue here is twofold. It's first of all, it's the M series, which is garbage, but it's running Chrome, and that might be fine for Chrome. But you're running Android apps on top of it. How's that going to be? I'll have to use it to find out. I don't know.
Yeah, 32 gigs internal storage, but it has the ability to expand to 256 with a micro SD. But it has 8 gigs of RAM, LPDDR3 RAM. So I don't know. I'm curious about this. It looks interesting for $600. 42 I lost it. What? Not 42 milliamp. What's the other measurement for the battery?
The what?
The battery. What's the battery life?
Milliwatt hour.
Yeah, milliwatt hour. 42 milliwatt hours. So let's see. Very interesting. All right, Paul. Can you hang out for a couple minutes, do a post show with me?
Yep.
Or do you have to run away? Okay, excellent. Guys, if you're watching this live, stay tuned. We're gonna do What to Talk, where me and Paul talk about whatever and everything. It's a fun show. If you're not watching this live, go to patreon.com/whatthetech. You can subscribe to the bonus show over there. For all things Paul, go to Thurrott.com. Anything new coming up, Paul? No?
Sorry, I just got a voicemail from a water conditioning company that's going to deliver salt.
Oh, because you...
And now I have to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't know how they got my name or my number, but
do you not...
The people that used to live here used to do this, but they put this on my phone number somehow, and that's alarming.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yep.
Fun. All right, guys. Stay tuned. What to Talk up next.